everyone. I'm Elena Armijo, and I'm the founder of the C-Suite Collective. This is a company I created for executive leadership coaching and wellness that supports C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and founders. Now, more than ever, businesses are running faster and with fewer resources. Burnout, overwhelm, disconnection, and disillusionment are the new norm for teams struggling with an old paradigm. At the C-Suite Collective, we believe deeply that providing massive support for your teams through executive coaching and holistic practices will create an inclusive culture, higher levels of performance, sustainable change, and the organizational impact you desire. You can find us at the c-suitecollective.com. What does taking care of yourself have to do with creativity and innovation? We'll look at that in our coaching tip for the month. Our guest today is Robert Kuang, a pianist and coach with a focus on decolonizing our creative expression, leadership development, and energy restoration. I have had Robert on the show before, and I truly enjoy every conversation that we have together. I hope you enjoy the episode today, and remember, something powerful resides within you. I'm here to support you in seeing it and creating it. So what does taking care of yourself have to do with creativity and innovation? Some of the conversation I had with Robert reminded me that there are so many ways that we suppress our creativity. I remember the first time I talked to an executive who had never explored creativity or the idea of creativity in a very specific way in their life. And what I mean by that is they didn't consider themselves creative. They thought that was not what they were good at. And specifically, we were told that they don't bring that to the table. Now, I have a belief, it's my belief system, so it doesn't resonate with everybody, but I have a belief that every human possesses creativity and innovation, and it's just untapped in some way, shape, or form. So I was thinking about, after my conversation with Robert, 3 things that really I get curious about with clients. The first is that during times of rapid change, laser focus on your self-care is actually required for creativity and innovation. So when rapid change is happening, usually we feel like we're spinning, we can't keep up with things, we feel pressure to have answers as leaders to whatever is in front of us, and it has our nervous systems get really anxious and riled up. At least that's my experience. I've seen other people feel tapped out or disassociated or numb or shut down. That's another way that this can show up. So when rapid change is happening in your life, especially if you feel like you are somebody who doesn't do well with rapid change or has taught themselves to just put up with rapid change, it might require a very direct focus on what you need moment to moment. This rapid change isn't going to happen all the time in your life, but there will be periods where this is happening, and you're going to need to focus in on what is the thing that will make a difference for you in between the moments where you gotta keep swimming. So for me right now, that's looking like getting really clear when I need a break, or looking at day to day what might actually make a difference in my energy level to be grounded. So I know that I need something when I feel like I'm speaking mainly from my head, I'm disassociated from my body, or I can't feel my heart or my gut or my intuition. That's a clear sign to me that I am out of whack and I need to just slow down and focus very quickly in on what I need so that I can rise up to the challenge of meeting my day or the rapid change that's occurring in the world. The second thing I think about is processing emotions. I avoided my emotions for a very long time. If I'm being honest, I still do a lot of times. And it's a lot of work for me to think about what I'm feeling and what I need. So for those of you that feel like that's a really high gradient, I get it. And I had to start with baby things like, what do I want to drink? Do I want water or do I want tea? Or do I want coffee? Or do I want a seltzer water? And that has grown into what am I feeling in my body that might need attention? Am I feeling anger, sadness, frustration, despair, hope, light, energy? The words have expanded over time, but really they started with like angry, sad, mad, glad, the 4 basic ones. And so as you start to uncover what you're really feeling, that might bring up a lot for people that have never spent time doing that, because frankly, in a society that moves fast, like the United States, moving fast is rewarded. And not feeling your feelings or stepping over them or getting over it quickly is what we see modeled in the world. So, slowing down to process what I'm feeling has actually opened up a whole new world around creativity. When I can feel, I can actually hear my heart and get ideas. And innovation comes from that patience and slowing down and silence where I'm taking care of emotion and processing it. Usually, I'm pretty reliable to have some new ideas pour through. And that brings me to the last one, slowing down. I just kind of mentioned it in the previous one, but slowing down and listening is not a luxury. I used to think that it was for people who had time or it was a very privileged conversation, which it really is a privileged conversation because if we get the opportunity to sit in a quiet room and be with our own thoughts, how magical is that? And I imagine there's a lot of people in the world that don't have an opportunity to do that. So while it may be a privilege, even looking at little moments in your shower or when you are walking outside on the way to something, where are the moments where you can slow down and listen to your body, to your heart, to your mind, and tap in? Also, listen to the harmony of the world. What's coming up around you? What are the sounds that are happening? What are the feelings that you're having on your skin as you're walking? Is the wind on your skin? Are you getting goosebumps from the music you're listening to? Is there a bird outside that continuously talks to you every time you walk by a certain tree? These are some of my experiences in the world that I notice if I can tune in and tap into, it brings more innovation and creativity. When I'm present, ideas bubble up. These are all just opportunities to look at where taking care of yourself can be integrated and balanced on your terms to creativity. Robert, I'm so excited to have you back on the show. Thank you for being here today. It's been a minute.
Yeah, we recorded and caught up some time ago on your podcast and on mine.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I reached out. Sometimes I do that intuitively. Hey, do you want to connect or catch up and do something kind of low pressure, but something that we would enjoy? So I'm so glad you said yes and really happy to be catching up with you.
Same. The world has changed quite a bit since we since we last
Yeah.
spoke. I think it was 2 years ago, if I have
Yeah,
that
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So how are you doing and where are you in the world now? Like catch us up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. My life has been overall very good, but like many people, very hectic. Along
Mhm.
with the wins came a lot of travel, for example. So I was in New York City on the East Coast, like you, for like 14, 15 years. And
Yeah.
then last fall, I moved with my partner to Vancouver, Canada to start a new life. My
Mhm.
partner got a teaching position at university here. And, as a coach and a creative, these type of things don't knock me off center too badly because I can always adjust and know that, I can sort of curate my life in a certain way.
Mm.
But it was still a big adjustment. If people don't know, this is my second immigration technically because I moved from China to the United States when I was 9, and I didn't think I would be doing this again, so to speak. But like it's these experiences that bring up a lot of like the personal development and thinking about your future in new ways, all the things that I know you and I care about. And I
Yeah.
was just really confronted with that for the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, that's so interesting because as a musician, and I'll speak from my former life, moving around was one of the things I loved. I loved getting to pick up a suitcase and go to a new city and meet new types of people or new communities. And at some point, that became Burnout City for me, right? After doing that for a couple years. But you just said that you didn't anticipate doing it again. And I wonder, was there ever a time in your life where that was a thing, like moving around was exciting, or have you always been pretty
Mm.
rooted in, I'm going to move and I'm going to ground in this new place and I'm going to put my roots down here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say growing up, I moved around quite a bit, both like the big move, like moving countries, and also just like, I switched schools quite a bit just from like moving houses or switching districts when I first got to the United States. So I would say that growing up, I had more of a I'm being dragged along to experience these things rather than
Ah, I
feeling like
see.
I was part of the experience sometimes. So
Hmm.
if you kind of picture the little kid with the book in the back seat of the car, just sort
Yeah,
of like dealing with life as it's sort of happening around them. So I used to experience moving with a little bit of powerlessness, I'm not gonna lie.
I
And it
see.
wasn't until getting older, but also just wanting more in life and also seeing the benefits of being able to travel and see these things now that I'm older moving to Canada, the benefit was being able to kind of be more intentional about it, and really wanting to explore the arts and culture and the food here. And, not being a little kid anymore, I can be a little more assertive in that way. So that's been nice. That's kind of maybe a nice way to heal that story a little bit.
Yeah, wow. I love that you're empowering it that way. What are you loving about it now?
Coming from New York, the food was a big one. I'll admit I didn't know too much about Vancouver's history and knowing its like heavy East Asian presence.
Mm.
But living in New York for so long, we were sort of always spoiled with like food options, just being able to get anything you want at any time. And but here, as a big fan of like Asian cuisine and everything, it's been it's been really, really lovely. And I've had the opportunity to connect with some like artists and creatives here, and that's been a real joy, connecting with like the events and the arts and culture scene here. It's really nice to sort of that's where I feel the most community in my life
I
both
see.
in New York, but also just like anywhere else. There's also a really vibrant online scene that I'm trying to take advantage of more with like other creatives from all over the world. And Vancouver just happens to be kind of a nice spot for people to connect.
I'm so glad to hear that because one of the things that I love about your leadership is that you invite in creativity and coaching side by side together. That's a bit of your brand. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I can't help it.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I can't either. They go hand in hand for both of us, I think. But and maybe for everybody. I guess that is one avenue to take. Like, do you feel like you're getting to see more clients untap their creativity, no matter what they do?
Yes, and I see the yearning in it. I mean, there's always the fear of not being able to pay your bills, or what if I make the wrong mistake? What if I can't handle rejection? On and on. I mean, what if I can't make anything else creative again? But it always calls to you in many ways. So, I always go back to, I always try to be sort of what I thought would be a good coach or a good business person or even a good musician, let's put it that way. But it always wound up being sort of a blend. When I wanted to improve myself as a musician, I
Hmm.
thought about like psychology, right?
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
about my body. When I did coaching, I thought about creativity and intuition. And so there's just something about my brain that I think tries to endlessly connect dots from these different spaces.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it was probably a survival skill I picked up growing up. You need to be able to connect these dots that don't make sense in different languages. You've never thought about this before because you need to do that in order to navigate your life's experiences. So, hopefully I've been able to turn it from like a survival mechanism into something of a power of mine. But yeah, it just sort of naturally happens that way.
What a cool gift to be able to see it that way. A
Chaotic, but
superpower.
sometimes useful.
Oh my gosh. Well, tell us a little bit about the clients you're working with these days and what draws you to them and who are they?
I think the most fulfilling work I've been able to do and I'm doing right now is working with other uh people in arts and humanities and in like a creative line of work
Mm,
and trying to navigate real world issues like
mm,
developing a career, paying your bills, navigating uncertainty. And at the same time, they want to keep leveling up their musicianship and their artistry, right? And their soul if you're an artist. And so the journey just never stops. So that tends to be very fulfilling because it's not always what I like about working with creative people who nevertheless have to deal with real world problems is it doesn't end at just like the promotion or like a particular business win or a contract. It just never stops because you're an artist. And so you just do your best to understand this ongoing journey you have, knowing it's never going to end. So I think our professional career for artists is like part of that. But I love that at the same time, we always have this dual nature or kind of multi-faceted nature that we have big purpose stuff going on. And sometimes we have maybe around faith, relationships, spirit. So that's sort of the most fulfilling part is it's never just one thing. From like one little goal they have, kind of always like blossoms into so many other things that they care about. And again, just that multifaceted nature is something I understand. But I also see that a lot of people see that as a terrible curse almost. It's like a great weakness, not being able to sort of push away everything and just focus on one singular thing. I
Mhm.
think right now in the current climate we're in, I don't know, maybe you agree or disagree, but I think it's better to know how to dance with all of it and multitask a little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it's less from the place of maybe good or bad or the way that our binary minds, I try to make it binary as well sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that it just allows for a more multidimensional approach as a human when you can bring all parts of yourself to the table or all pieces of your creativity to the table. Singular focused of there's one I remember even when we first started coaching, we would hear all the time in marketing classes, I'm sure you heard this too, like you must have a niche. You must
Mhm.
have one lane to choose as a coach. And I remember thinking, yeah, I'm not going to do that because that was told to me in music as well. You must sing in one lane. You must sing
Mhm.
in opera only. When I loved jazz and musical theater and
Yep.
R&B, even though I'm not a good R&B singer at all. But it's just there were so many different sides to music that I loved and being in one lane while I appreciated the mastery that it takes to be in one lane, it felt like there were pieces of myself I was leaving behind. And so I'm just hearing you're really reconciling that with people as well in business.
Yeah, and I want to say sometimes maybe there are circumstances or situations where you do have to laser focus. But
Hmm.
I find that for a lot of people, they're doing that out of the hope that that sacrifice will get them what they want. But
Yeah.
what we're often left with is just uncertainty. And we're
Yeah.
left not knowing whether that sacrifice was worth it or not. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I'm all for sort of being intentional with these things more than anything. And then, but but certainly, I would say I'm especially working with so many different types of clients that there's no one way to approach this. So I think it's definitely very useful to understand all of your client right now, whatever those, diverse, disparate experiences may be. And that's sort of why I say, I'm a coach, but my writing skills have been really, really useful. I just know it from the way we work and the way we take notes. So it's just you sort of find these subtle connections, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How have your writing skills helped as a coach?
Um, I I listen differently. And this is a very vulnerable share, but my language fluency, my English fluency from like middle school to high school was probably a little bit subpar. Like I would say I wasn't truly completely fluent the way that I am now. It wasn't until I started writing for fun that
Mhm.
it kind of changed the way my brain thought about language and comprehension almost. So I don't want to get too scientific because I'm not a scientist, but
Yeah.
just in the way that language can shape our reality and our life's experiences, I really felt that when I started writing, in that it made me think about communication and what we say and what we mean a little bit differently. And so that skill, I like to think, really matters when it comes to deep listening. That's one
Mm.
of the things that inside of coaching, sometimes there's that line of like, we're just talking to each other, you know, where's the work coming from? And I
Yeah.
think that difference would be if you feel heard and if you feel felt and if you feel seen inside these sessions. And a lot of that comes out of something intangible and passive, like deep listening. You can tell when someone is paying attention and when someone is actively engaged with you or not, you know? And I know this especially with other artists in performance. Like we know what that engagement is, and we know how to sort of bring it up and turn it on almost. And I really, really appreciate that because sometimes you are in a session and you feel like you're just killing time. And hopefully my sessions are nothing like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody's feeling like they're killing time, then we need to talk about scope of work, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But I think it can get circular in that way, right?
for sure.
So yeah. And I also the writing skills really makes me try to understand the narrative of that people are living inside of. And so sometimes that's another thing that I remind myself is what is the narrative I'm hearing?
Mm.
Here are the facts, and then what's the storyline? So that's
Mhm.
a very nerdy writerly thing to say.
Not necessarily. It just inspired in me what you shared is I'm thinking, wow, I really get that because we are stories. Humans are
Yeah.
stories, right? We are meaning making machines, not only in the way we view the world, but our stories are the things that create that deep intimacy and connection among humans. So
Yeah.
it makes complete sense to me that the story piece would be the piece that you're zeroing in on.
Yeah, I mean, even inside of sessions that I would call, we both have done this like executive coaching, truly
Mhm.
the kernel of those conversations is not really some high level verbiage concept thing that's going on. It's usually kind of the deepest aspects of human relationships, for example,
Mhm.
or kind of being comfortable with all the uncomfortable parts of yourself. And so it often reverts back to these bare essentials. And, for me, I see that so often, and you do too, that I try to remind myself of that. Whoever you're talking to, they're just a real person with a complex history. And maybe another thing that's been coming up lately is try not to make so many assumptions, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it
Mhm.
still goes back to listening. And for me, I don't know, there's something about writing that really helps me stay engaged, when you're sort of just being with people all day.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Wow. So, how are clients getting supported during this time of turbulence? I mean, I know you moved to Vancouver. There's a lot going on between the US and Canada right now,
Hmm.
and pretty much the US and everybody else right now that we're seeing in the world. So, I imagine you like myself work with all types of people. So this isn't necessarily about one political affiliation or one belief system, but a, a various amount of views come through my door.
Hmm.
So, first and foremost, how are you supporting yourself as a coach? I guess is the question I want to ask, through
Hmm.
supporting all those people.
I think that's probably why I'm so passionate about writing this question you're asking, because writing always makes me feel like, and same with playing the piano as well, actually, it makes me feel like I'm getting back to my roots. So whenever I feel too discombobulated or caught up by current events and things like that, I always try to do something that goes back to my kind of like essential nature. The same person that sort of navigated growing up and moving around all these different places. One of the things that kept me who I am is sort of my natural curiosity. So I will try to do something that doesn't have any expectation in it, right? So that's sort of my form of self-care is, certainly we can numb too much or cope too much, but just try to think of something that's not super driven by agenda or outcome or expectation. For me, that is trying to write something that really reflects what I'm currently experiencing. Or being able to sit down and be able to improvise something on the piano usually tells me I'm at a certain place with my body as far as like my nervous system. Or if I can't do it at all, that also tells me some important things as well. When you're singing and you're like, ooh, okay, maybe I need a rest or whatever, right? So that's been helping me is sort of sometimes, especially in coaching conversation, you feel very like heady, like high level everything all the time. And this helps me bring me back down to earth a little bit to be like, take care of yourself, take care of your relationships, be compassionate, and then engage with some, super specific issue that we need to resolve and move forward with. Yeah. So it's a lot of like very intimate self-care, I guess I would say. Something that touches on my spirit. What about for you?
A lot of similar practices, actually, because I'm thinking about as a coach, we hold so many high level conversations, like you're saying, where people bring things that they typically can't bring anywhere else in the world. Or if they can, they just need some deeper support around it, right? And I often think of other people that are doing that same thing in the world besides just coaches. So people in healthcare, people in education right now that are really scared, anybody with the federal government that's lost their job recently. There's a lot of families that are dealing with holding a lot of fear. And even I'm thinking about, you know, people that have groups of friends that disagree, right? People that you've had as your support system for 20 plus years who now can't seem to find anything to agree on or are getting so afraid that those relationships are becoming fractured. So I'm doing the same practices that I would give my clients because I think we're all experiencing this collectively as humans. So what that looks like for me is my self-care. I don't think it's ever been a luxury. It has been a privilege on some level, but it's never been a luxury to take time for myself. It's been a mandatory. And the pieces of me that still resist that because I think that it is a luxury from
Oh, yeah.
up or privilege or any of those conversations really are getting stamped out right now because there is no room. There's just no room to not take care of myself and still be able to show up and do my job.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
daily walks outside in sunshine is essential for me with my pups. And I am fortunate enough to live in California right now during winter time where I can do that still. If I wasn't, I would probably be ordering one of those lamps that people have in Seattle.
We
Or
have one. Yeah, in the
yeah,
Pacific Northwest, we need
yeah,
that.
exactly. I would be finding a way to soak up as much vitamin D as possible because it really supports my nervous system. I hate meditation. I will just own that. I have always been a woman that like tries to meditate throughout various times in my life, and it's been a very fractured relationship with meditation. And recently, I took on a support structure where I hired a teacher to just teach me how to meditate instead of
Wow.
trying to read books or do all the things that,
Yep.
are
Hmm.
self-starter things. It just wasn't working. And I still hate meditation, but what I will say is that meditating twice a day now has been a lifeline because it's exactly what you're talking about. It's me sitting with myself, and it's not even about doing it right or wrong. That's not why I hired the person. I hired the person to show me where I was afraid to sit with myself and feel the things I have traditionally been numbing out on or creating systems around where where I could get through the day. So I noticed when I started meditating that my system was a high performer system, right? It was get up, it was go outside and walk and make sure you had a nutritious breakfast and start with some coffee and some lemon water and do all the things and take the supplements and then have 8 hours of calls with some breaks in between to stretch and then get off work and cook a healthy meal and maybe move your body and connect with the person you love the most and then sit down and have a glass of wine to wind down the system. And it was so structured, which worked, but it was a machine.
Yeah.
And machines break down in times like this, when so much humanity is needed and
Yeah.
compassion and intimacy, right? So for me, it's been breaking down the machine intentionally so that I can see where I've been avoiding feeling or processing, which right now, the more that I process, the more I can hold in the world.
Mm. Wow,
So,
I love the intentional breaking down. This is a thought I've had for a number of years now, but I tend to support given how many problems we see in our work is brought on by structural and systemic things, that
yes.
to learning how to dismantle a system can be very useful and it's great for awareness. But I always thought, one of the issue you're going to find is we don't agree on what to replace it with,
Right.
what the new structure could be, and
Yeah.
there's no consensus on that. But your journey exploring the structures and intentionally breaking it down and then seeing what else is there, what else is still working,
Yeah.
what do I want to replace, kind of reminds me of that process a little bit that we're seeing around the world that can be very very chaotic and consequential, I guess I will say. But I highly support people trying to understand their own system as like a starting place. Like, can
Yeah.
you restructure and dismantle your system, you know, in an understandable, sustainable way?
And and I love the words you use, chaos, messy,
Yeah.
uncomfortable, right? Like
Hmm.
that's all happening over here. But I feel healthier than I've ever felt before. So it's not, and I want to highlight, it's not just the meditation, right? It's not just eating well. It's the intentionality behind the curiosity in what I need. And what I
Hmm.
need changes daily. That's just going to be the reality, right? For a long
Yeah.
time, I thought, well, at this season in my life, what do I need? Or at, a 44-year-old woman, what do I need? Right? And some of that still plays into the picture, but it's more about daily being present enough to know, which
Hmm.
is so radical from the way that I operated for 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, allowing yourself daily like reinvention almost a little bit. And that tends to happen during times of rapid change and rapid development, which is what we're being brunted with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely understand that. And ever since, I'll say last November, I've had an echo of that from clients, which is like, oh, this is serious. Like time to really figure out what we really want to spend our time on, what we really care about.
Yes.
Um, because the world is sort of going to make you answer those things as you're
Yeah.
confronted with more pressure cooker or just more decisions that you have to make, right? You're constantly going to be asking, well, who are you? What do you care about? What do you want to do? So yeah, there's been a lot of those conversations of sadly during times of turmoil,
Mm.
coaching work can sort of see a little bit more of a kind of a not an improvement, but sort of a focus, a refocus, if that makes any sense. And I don't know if you noticed
Yeah.
that yourself, but
Yeah.
I had a lot of like, oh yeah, time to really focus, right?
Yeah. I think that's a common occurrence over here with my clients as well, is when you're left without anything else but choice in the moment for resilience and growth, that's all you get, right? Everything else becomes a secondary conversation when the priority is, what do I need to take care of? What's in front of me today? What's the decision I need to make? And what do I need to be able to show up to that? Like, who do I
Yeah.
need? So, wow, really cool that we're having similar experiences with clients in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to have spaces where you sort of recognize like it's not just you in any capacity,
Hmm.
right? And number one, I get that from talking with other people, clients or not, but also talking with other coaches, just to hear like, hey, yeah, there's a running theme going on. And at every time it's never just one person, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, people have been, you know, uh talking about burnout more and whatnot. But but yeah, we're definitely connecting on a very interesting time in our lives,
Yeah.
where everyone's just faced with a lot of uncertainty. And I would still say, a lot of the coaching skills we have can help navigate that because we've sort of always been known that to be true in our work.
Yeah. Yeah. You're never not needed,
Yeah, yeah.
which is which is good. And I love the how you wrapped it around with all of us being part of the collective and serving the collective at the same time. I really think the world is calling for more community as we move forward and collectivism, again, while not losing your individualism. And that's something, the both and of that is what's next for all of us. So it sounds like we're all walking together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that may be the next piece that I will possibly explore, or you and I will both explore, which is just around the magic of community. That's been a long-standing truth in human history, but this year in particular, there's sort of I'm sensing at least there's a re-up in focus on community building and really understanding how to sustain it. And, it's like everyone wants a village, but how do you be a villager kind of feeling a lot these
Yeah.
days? How do you make people coming together work when you're faced with so much negative examples of that? And that's not, I mean, I'm affected by it. Everyone is, right?
Yeah. And disagreements. I still believe there is space for everybody to feel and believe different things and still agree to meet in the middle
Hmm.
somewhere, right? So really getting to a place where diversity of thought is allowed with dignity and respect at the center.
Yeah. 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 Certainly, I feel rapidly aging these days and in sounding like, oh, where are the manners and consideration and being
Mm.
polite and courteous? But there is sort of a little bit of that that can help move things along. And when people are talking about how they feel stuck and there's a lot of things are more difficult than they need to be as far as projects and stuff, I think a little bit of magic ingredient is just basic human decency, right?
Yeah.
And you'll see how much your projects and your work and things around you will speed up. But, certainly maybe easier said than done in some cases.
Yeah. Well, and nobody, we're walking through it. Like we said, we're all showing up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, thank you so much for sharing everything you shared today on this show. It's so great to have you back again. And I like to ask one question to everybody on the way out, which is if you had a message for the world to send them off with into the future, uh, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, kind of maybe sort of a spiritual thing coming up for me, but in reflecting on your question, which I love, I would say maybe focus on getting to a place and finding the ingredients in your own life where you can be safe enough to let yourself have fun and let your inner child come out and play.
Mhm.
But all of those ingredients, and one thing that's being really challenged right now has to do with safety. So if you can look at around, I think for a lot of people, there's so many different concerns and worries, right? But one element that I think is essential for people to check back in is how are these different decisions or these different options, how can they possibly affect your safety in a positive or negative way? And
Mm.
then see what happens. But, when I say safety, that sounds very serious. It's just that I found safety and pleasure and joy to be deeply connected. So I don't actually mean that in a very, again, in a very serious image, but actually just what do you need to truly have some fun in this life, with the time that you have left. That's often a sign of health, community, and actually a positive sign to be able to have fun. So I would say look for that in your life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's always a pleasure.
If this conversation sparks something for you, let it move through your week. Take it with you, take on one small action to move the ball forward. And if you want to join our community of leaders who are daring to lead with courage and heart, you can find that at www.elenaarmijo.com or www.thec-suitecollective.com. I reserve a small number of complimentary 20-minute sessions for leaders who want clarity on what they need and insight into what is getting in the way. The practical next steps that create real movement and results in your leadership journey. So you can schedule a call through the link below. It's in the description. Like, subscribe. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for doing the work of being human together.